February is celebrated as Black History Month. Ironically, it follows the celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King's holiday. This contribution has raised consciousness of the world to his successful nonviolent philosophy that demonstrated what can be done through nonviolence.
Dr. King's holiday was celebrated throughout the world for as far as Israel. There are many communities named the Sabbath before his birthday. Thus Martin Luther King's birthday, Sabbath. Synagogues, churches, temples throughout the United States also gave recognition to this great man's vision, dreams, and accomplishments. This message to the world was:
we are all brothers and sisters, and we must live together as brothers and sisters, or we will perish as fools. We understand what affects one human being affects us all. People in China, Eastern Europe, countries under communist oppression are using Dr. King's words and philosophy and singing "We Shall Overcome." Thank you.
And we have the Chief Rabbi's sister here with us today, Ms. Verna Brown. And said she's going to say something on behalf of her brother.
I'm not at this time. I'm just happy to be here and to celebrate this great occasion with you. It brings back many, many memories. And I wish you the best, and you come this far by faith, as they were saying, and I'm sure you'll be going on from all that I have heard so far, that you'll be joining all of the community and be joining the leaders of the world and everything that you are doing so far, and hearing all the good things that you are doing. You will continue to go on. And that is something that Rabbi Levi would love and he would have cherished, knowing that you are still working and carrying on the work that he started. Amen.
And well, I think as she said with her sister, being close with his family. In some communities, when people come into a new faith, they cut their ties with their previous family. When he became a Jew and even a rabbi, his father, you saw in that picture, my grandfather, came to New York to witness his son become a rabbi with no recrimination about the choice that he made. But all of his family supported him in that endeavor and continue to support him even to this day. Well, we have a lot of spiritual leaders with us today, and I want to invite a few of them to say words on behalf of all of us. And so I think what I'll do is call on those perhaps we haven't heard from yet. And also I want to hear from Rabbi Bowen, who came the longest distance. So therefore, I'm not going to call every rabbi and every leader, but we recognize all those that are present, and we'll have a few words from those who are here with us. So at this time, we're going to hear from Rabbi Yeshua, who is rabbi at Beth Shalom, who we saw a lot of in this video.
Shalom, everyone. Shalom. I mean, indeed, at a pleasure to be here to once again to commemorate Rabbi Levy's commemoration. I just want to inform you that my first encounter with Rabbi Levy was through my first spiritual leader, which was that of Falasha Luka, back in 71. I think it was 71. That was my first encounter with Rabbi Levi ben Levi. He had came to the shop where I happened to be working at the time to do some things that that you had demonstrated, said that he did at Beth Shalom, and that is use oils and burn incense. And being that the Dada Falasha was the person who dealt in those endeavors at the time, selling incense oils and various things of that nature, he came to Dada Falasha to purchase it. Lo and behold, I never knew your father. All right. So therefore, he says to me, Dada told me, he says, you know, this is Rabbi McKeithen. I said, excuse me? He said, Rabbi McKeithen. I wasn't aware at the time that there were black rabbis in our community. You see? So he had explained to me, he says, when you brothers get yourselves together, I want you to go by over there and pay the rabbi some respects, go to his congregation. I says, okay. He said, don't forget Rabbi Matthew either. And Rabbi, you mentioned his name, used to be on, no, the one used to be on Lexington Avenue. Rabbi Woods. Rabbi Woods. He said, I want you, all you brothers, to go visit and see who your leaders are. And we accommodated his wishes. So I went and I came to your father's synagogue at the time, and I met members of the congregation, and I was taken aback. I don't know if y'all remember me back in the early 70s, you know. And I says, I must come back to Beit Shalom. And yours truly, I'm back there, and I've been the rabbi at that congregation for some time. And I just so happened that I mentioned Rabbi Levy's name yesterday in my dissertation, in my speaking about yesterday's parasha. And I reminded everyone that you're standing in a place that, you know, we ought to give homage to. And that was Rabbi Levi ben Levi, because he was responsible for all of us being in this community at this time. And I mentioned Rabbi Moshe ben Abraham, mentioned his name, but I also, because we had a lot of young people yesterday in our congregation, you're having service, and a lot of them don't know the history. A lot of them don't know the history. I said, the building you're standing in is a person who's responsible and has to be recognized. Please come out today, if you have your time, to come out and commemorate his memory. So, look, I tell everyone, I want to leave you with these words as well. And there's a saying that my first teacher used to say to us. He says, we who have suffered so much and experienced so much may well speak of itself as that rightful nation. A remnant shall return.
Yes, and we're happy to have you here with us. And as I said, it's the result of our community activism, because we know that building was built as the Young Israel of Williamsburg, right? And because we have good relations with them, we were able to make that transition to say, well, you can use the synagogue and you could be here. I sent an article by email last month from the New York Times of the congregation that used to exist down here, the Laurelton Jewish Center. And when they were closing, we were already here, and we didn't have as good a relationship. We were interested in acquiring another building, and then they sold it, became a Jehovah's Witness temple. A lot of our Bema articles came from there, and one of our Torahs, right? But we couldn't do what our leaders were able to do in the 1960s. The same thing the other congregation over here, which is now a church we were interested. But when they sell it as a real estate, we could never outcompete some of the churches who were able to pay what the buildings were worth. But those who are interested in continuing Judaism said, I would rather see you have it and it remain a synagogue than to see it become a church. And that's only because we had good relations with those congregations. We're also happy to have back